Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. And I hope that virtually from sitting here, everyone is well. Thank you for joining us in our virtual workshop series, Engage, Enlighten, and Empower. We have a special guest with us here today, and I'm excited to introduce him. His name is Reginald Parks. Reginald is the owner and creative director for Reality Marketing Group, a company in which he owns that's located here in Central Florida. Reginald received his bachelor's degree from the University of North Carolina, and he received his MBA from Herzing University here in Orlando in partnership with the African American Chamber of Commerce of Central Florida, in which Reginald has been an active member for the last 4 years. He's very active in the community, serving on different boards, but he is passionate about helping businesses such as yours develop different mechanisms to helping their business grow then and now. So we're in for a special treat. Reginald's going to present to us reevaluating your business, what you can do right now given the circumstances that we're all facing. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Reginald.
Good morning, guys. Hope everybody's doing well this morning given the circumstances, and thank you, Tanisha, for that introduction. I do want to definitely talk about reevaluating your business and actions you can be doing now, given these odd circumstances and given what is going on. I want to just hop right into that. Hopefully everybody's able to jump right in. I see we have about 24 people in there now, and we'll give some time for everybody to hop in. But thank you for the opportunity once again to speak with you all, and hopefully this will be engaging as well as a conversation that we can have, and really just to spark thought as to what's going on in the world, and as well as what's going on in your individual businesses. So with that being said, of course, so as I stated, reevaluating your businesses and actions that you can be doing now given the circumstance. So as COVID-19 has come upon the world, there are things that we can be doing now to better our businesses, ready ourselves for future and grow. So this particular webinar will talk about some of the things we can be doing in the meantime, as well as some things that will be bettering the business now and for the future, because as we see with this particular happening, the future and even now is uncertain. So we want to make sure that we're kind of setting ourselves up to be achievers in the future. And achievers now, as we continue to engage with our clientele, and with our business, and with individuals that within our business, and those that we come in contact with daily, to make sure that our businesses are continually lucrative and continually successful, because we will make it through it for sure. But I did get a brief introduction. I wanted to just say kind of who am I, because of course I want you guys to feel, of course, that I'm credible to talk about it. But originally I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I did go to North Carolina State University. I graduated from Herzing University and got my MBA. Also, as Miss Grace said, or Miss Gary said, through a membership, or through my membership with the chamber, we actually had a partnership to get MBAs. A lot of us ended up getting our MBA through the African American Chamber of Central Florida, so that was awesome. I then went on to get my marketing strategy certificate at Cornell, and I serve now as the owner and creative director of Reality Marketing Group. I've been doing marketing strategy and creative for 8+ years now, and I actually started kind of a top tips site that I'll more than likely host this particular video on, so that you can refer back to it. So if you are taking notes, or maybe at a desk somewhere where you can, we will hopefully I'll be able to post this there as well. We build business brands and online presence, and over time I've done 100+ web and marketing projects, and actually had the opportunity to be of help to the African American Chamber years ago, to the current site that they use. In addition to that, from time to time I do a guest lecture there at UCF, and hopefully you guys get an opportunity to check out some of that stuff. But beyond that, some of the brands that we've worked with, and opportunities we had to work with on different strategies, marketing, some of which you may be familiar with, and some of which are even board members there at the chamber. Some are my actual national fraternity. I'm able to be of help there. Our current census efforts here in Florida. We've done video and other projects with the city as well as McDonald's and so forth. That's just a little bit about me. But let's hop right on in there. That's the first major point, is you will get through this. No matter kind of how hard it is per se right now, or if it's hitting your business in different ways, as depending on your industry, it could be, of course, hitting you in a way, but you've made it through hard times in the past, and you're a great entrepreneur and a business owner, and do not underestimate your business and your ability to adapt. The first step is being on webinars like this and being on, continually learning through this process, continually growing, and you're taking those steps, even just simply listening and being engaged with the chamber and being engaged with things where you can continually grow, even through what is considered or may be considered a stagnant time for you. So these would be some things that we're going to talk about today to make sure not only you make it through this, but you make it easier in the future. And if there is something that comes up again, you will have a little bit better opportunity to adjust and definitely and grow within those situations as well. This is to make sure that you're prepared for potential next crisis, or even just prepared to always be at the top of your game when it comes to being a business owner, entrepreneur, or even a leader or executive in your business. And then also just so you're set up to flourish no matter what. And a lot of these things that a lot of people are utilizing now and leveraging to adjust are things that we're going to talk about that you could potentially incorporate in your business all the time to make sure that you have your business up and going through crisis and even flourishing even more when things are going well. So just to step right in, it's very, I don't want to step through 6 things you should be thinking about. And we're going to step through each one of these a little bit more in depth in this presentation. So these are 6 things you could be thinking about at this time and acting on throughout the crisis, or throughout this pandemic. So number 1 will be your people. That's your most valuable asset. A lot of things are happening when it comes to people and personnel right now, and we'll talk about that a little bit in depth. We're going to talk about your business strategy, or how you can be thinking about that, so how you do things in general. A third one is your revenue model. So thinking about, of course, how you make money through products and services, and how we can, dip into that different ways, even now and in the future, to hopefully help you build both now and in the future. We're going to talk about your systems and automation. So what are you using to accomplish these goals and fulfill orders, or to contact your potential clients and so forth? We're going to talk about branding and what that really means, and who you are to your clients, how you make them feel, et cetera, and things you could be working on. And then lastly, of the 6, we're going to talk about sales and business development, as that's the lifeblood of your business, no matter kind of what industry you're in and what you're doing at this time. So I'm going to dip right into that. So number 1 is people. I've stated that's your most valuable asset. A lot of businesses right now aren't necessarily thinking about people in the term of kind of how can we be making sure that we're communicating and evaluating our team and making sure that they feel welcome even in this particular circumstance. A lot of businesses are having kind of some attrition based on just the circumstance of money and things. You want to make sure that even in this time, you take the opportunity to review that most valuable asset in depth, and how they might be kind of more productive, better, and how they kind of feel and how they're having this experience, as you want to make sure that in the worst of times, your team members and those who work with you feel like they're a valuable asset, feel like they're not just something that is part of losses, if that makes sense. So one thing to think about in your team, of course, and we kind of dip right into that, are you able to scale up and down kind of with part-time and full-time staff? That's one part. When it comes to a lot of small businesses, a lot of businesses that leverage partnerships and things like that, you want to make sure that, hey, if we did get a large project, I know a lot of construction and things like that, when we get a large project, we leverage part-time, we leverage those partnerships and things like that. Think about your business in that way as well. No matter what industry that you're in, kind of think about your scenarios where, hey, if we're at this point, we're in a slow period, we're in a middle period, and or if we're in a very, very high peak season, how can we scale up and down in a way that'll make sure that we don't take major hits if we go either direction. In addition to that, though, when you're thinking about your people, you want to be thinking about incentives. I know that this is kind of an odd time to think about that, but you do want to make sure that how are you rewarding your people for their great work? Because in instances like this is a time where you want to make sure you're evaluating those who work with you and appreciating them in a way that we've never seen before as people work with people, so, and they're working with you and they're sticking with you through this hard time, or you're communicating with them to make sure that, hey, it's a slow period, we may not be working right now, but I will need you in the future, things like that. Thirdly is kind of this point is flexibility. So how flexible and comfortable is the workplace? A lot of people are now going to be thinking about, or when I say people, I mean people who work for you or who are considered employees. They're reevaluating. They're currently kind of reevaluating how work and what work means for them and how they can work remotely, how they can continually bring in a paycheck or continually be active when things happen like this. So how flexible is your workplace, and how is it where someone could go, on maternity, paternity leave, and still be able to be interacting with the clients, or even just being there with you, being paid. And of course, the most important part right now is the ability to be remote. So can they work remotely and still be productive? That kind of goes into the flexibility as well. A lot of people are working from home now, and for example, my mother works for the state of North Carolina. So an example of that is they had to take all their work computers home and shift everything to the house. Whereas in our company, everybody is pretty much remote. We already have laptops, mechanisms, and things like that, which we'll talk about in the near future and throughout this presentation. But how productive can your staff be remotely? Currently, this is even more important. So can your business thrive when people are not in the office each day? And how can you move towards a model where that's a certain yes? So if and when something does happen to your brick and mortar, or if and when something like this happens, how consistent can you be with your team connecting with clients and so forth? So this is one of the key components of the 6. We're talking about your people. Next is strategy. So talk about strategy. We're talking about what you do, how you do it, how you execute your business. So one of the points, of course, is just focusing on your strengths. At this time, during the pandemic and during our remote times, we want to make sure that we kind of reevaluate our businesses as the title of this presentation is. We're sitting down at our homes and our times, or in, kind of on our own as CEOs or on our own as business owners, and making sure that we're focusing on our strengths. So what are some key strengths as a business, and how can you capitalize on them rather than potentially, doing a lot of things that are not necessarily strengths, that may not even be your breadwinners, that at the time you're kind of putting busy work on maybe your employees or maybe even yourself. This is a time where you're like, hey, these are the things that are bringing us in revenue. These are the things we need to be focusing on. These are the things that we need to be selling, as well as these are the things that we are great at and we can be seen as leaders in our industry. Secondly, kind of leaning on that though, is your overall product and services. So how do you fine tune your products? Right now, you want to be thinking about, hey, we do provide this service, but how do we make it better? How do we make it more convenient for those who are our clients or who are being provided our product? And this is a great time to remotely connect with key people and investors, or key people, and evaluate the product and brainstorm, hey, what are we doing to make this a better product for our constituents, or for people who are listening and learning from us every day or buying from us. I mean, this is a very good example is right now, the African American Chamber is a leader in this. They're creating these webinars and creating these series to say, hey, let's fine tune our product and change the way that we're doing it and make sure that we're still giving a valuable product at this time. So their overall product and service, they're looking at it and saying, hey, let's fine tune that and still put it out consistently throughout this process. Third point within the strategy is looking at your strategic partners. A lot of us are a smaller business. We're a boutique firm, so we keep somewhere between 3 and 5 employees, 7 to 8, depending on different projects and things like that. So we lean a lot on strategic partnerships. Those are people who help us, refer us, things like that. And I would assume that a lot of smaller businesses are doing that as well. So this is a time where you can kind of look at your key partners. Who are your key partners? Who are your referrers and things like that? Review where your business is coming from and who are your key partners at this time to see how you can maximize those relationships. This is a time when you're looking at your strategy and saying, hey, we should give a call to some of our major clients, some of our major strategic partners, and see how we can be helping them at this time, see what we can talk through, because we're all going to come out of this and we want to make sure that we have even stronger partnerships after it. So this is a time where you can be looking at those strategic partnerships and finding who those key people are, growing your business and making it bigger and better once you come out. And fourth, and I kind of finish up, of course, with the more remote portion of it, but how accessible is your business and services like in times like these? How accessible and how can you make your services even more accessible at any time? So we're talking about online forms, we're talking about onboarding without seeing your clients, we're talking about signing up and paying online. All of those little things that seem so trivial become very, very important at times like this. So how can you leverage those type of things? So we'll talk about it a little bit further when we talk about kind of mechanisms and beyond strategy. But can you take your product and service online? And how is your website creating value and alleviating or kind of canceling out the fact that you can't meet someone in person all the time? And that's kind of a way that you scale as well. Businesses can't scale if you as an individual or an entrepreneur have to be there all the time. So this is something you should be looking at pretty much all of the time also. And accessibility to your services and making sure that it's accessible right now in times like this is going to be very, very important when you're in better times because it really just broadens your audience. So what I like to do is use examples of things that we've done, whether it be relevant or whether it be relatively recent or whether it be in the past, and lean on that instead of kind of talking and just talking hypothetically. I like to say these are the things that we've done for other clients to shift and to leverage their systems or to do things like what we're talking about. So we work with a company, the Center for Home Ownership up in North Carolina, where their services are pretty much helping those acquire homes, acquire business loans, things like that. We have a few clients that do that type of thing. And both of them, or all of the ones that kind of do similar things like that, are kind of shifting the bulk of their business online. And they had the website and things to shift it, as we are their kind of service provider for that. But they're shifting their key competencies right to online. They're focusing on, hey, let's dwindle down our services to those that we can provide online and off, so that we can maximize our audience. So they're shortening their list of services, and they're saying, okay, these are the things that we can solve for kind of a broader audience. And they're repositioning themselves and using Zoom, which we'll talk about later, and kind of leveraging different technologies, things like that, to do their webinars rather than in person. So they're able to not only do their webinars that they were doing, or they were doing seminars in person with people, 5, 10, maybe 15, 20, whatever the number may have been. But now they can do them in person as well as once they're out, of course, once we're out of this particular household or hold on things like that, they're able to leverage and widen their reach in the future as well. So we're not only thinking about, hey, what you can be doing right now, but how you could actually be leveraging the things that you're doing right now by switching over to webinars, switching over to things like that, or switching over to live streams and so forth, and leverage that to maximize your audience even in the future. So maybe in the future, for an example like this, we could, you could have a paid wall for a webinar or a paid wall for a live stream, and leverage those people who cannot be there in person. Maybe they pay a percentage of the fee that will be there in person, and then you're able to actually maximize your audience and get those people who might not be there and things like that. So just think about all the different ways that you could be leveraging this instance to say, hey, this is a way we can better our business in the future. And that was just one example that we've worked on recently. They've been a client of ours for maybe 4 or 5 years now. Another key component of, as we step through the 6, this is number 3, and you see the big numbers in the background, so you can kind of keep up there. And also, as I stated in the beginning, we're going to hopefully I'll have an opportunity to have this recorded and be able to post it. So if you missed a portion in the beginning, or if we're kind of taking notes, you'll be able to refer back to it also. So don't worry about it too much if I zoom through something, or if I don't stay on something long enough. But number 3 is the lifeblood of your business. I mean, it's revenue. So this is a time when you can really feel when your revenue model is working, or honestly, or vice versa. So you can find ways to transition your revenue model that aligns with continual flow of cash and income. So these are times where you need to, or not need to, but these are times where you can look into recurring or subscription models or add-on services, things like that. So, for example, can you create a model that allows you for ongoing services for clients that make a more dependable revenue stream? Freemium versions or subscriptions to certain portions of your business may be available, depending on your industry. Of course, this is, I know I'm probably speaking to business owners from a plethora of different industries. So I want to make sure that this is an umbrella, but also kind of makes sense for you as well. So think about that. And as you look through these 6 points, I want to make sure that you can kind of pinpoint how your business can do this, where you can create a recurring or subscription model. I mean, even companies, coffee provider, I'm not sure if it was Starbucks or who has done that realm, but even they're creating recurring and subscription models at this point, where they're saying, hey, for $10 a month, you come in and get coffee. So they're pretty much solidifying their quarterly income on the percentage, or banking on a percentage of those people will say, hey, I can save $5 a month. But they will also say, hey, if they save $5 a month, we at least know that we're getting $5 or $10 a month from them, no matter what, even if they do or do not come into our store. Of course, a lot of businesses leverage this technology, gyms, things like that, membership fees. Pretty much recurring and subscription models are very good for pretty much, to be honest, as entrepreneurs, are guaranteed, or something you can really plan out quarterly when it comes to your income. So if you're in an industry where you can do that, or where you can create some kind of an add-on service, it's very important to have those things. So when I talk about add-on services, are there secondary services that may be of value to generating revenue for you when things are slower, or just in general? Because we're not only going to talk about how things are slower now, but we're also going to talk about how to add on and add value to your business and add revenue to your business once everything speeds back up. Because ideally, we want you to hop back in once everything is a go, per se, and have these different revenue models, or have this, these technologies that you're leveraging now, and being able to say, hey, this is a new value that we now have for our business. So another item that I have that's not listed here, we actually incorporated this particular model this year as we jumped in to our 5th full year as a company, is a profit first model. And I'll put that in the notes and then things too. So one other, in addition to just recurring and subscription and add-on services, we incorporated a profit first model, where you kind of pay yourself first, just like you kind of should as an individual, but you pay your company first, and so that you do have money in times of need for taxes, yourself, and to operate. And actually, there's a book by Mike McAllowitz. It's called Profit First, and I'll put that in notes or wherever after. So we started using this model, along with switching to a lot of our services to a recurring and subscription model going into this year, 2020, not knowing what was going to happen, of course. And our revenue, honestly, hasn't really changed throughout this process, luckily. And a lot of the clients that we work with who do that have really had no real influx, or no jump downward during this. So I think it's something that you could look into when it comes to not only applying that recurring and subscriptions, but add-on services, and looking at a profit first model where you would then have that kind of that side additional bank accounts in times of need and so forth too. So examples, like I said, I like to use examples rather than just saying hypothetically, this is what you can do, hypothetically, blah, 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 and you being like, hey, how does that even apply to me? How does that apply to my business? How does that apply to me as an entrepreneur? So I used a few examples, and I can even elaborate on more. And these are just three completely different industries, completely different, ways of going about their business and so forth. And I have more that I will. So, for example, a secondary and add-on. A lawyer, for instance, of course, their primary service is lawyer. Maybe they're a trial lawyer, maybe they are, going to court for their clients. Secondary service could be contract review. That is something they could potentially do remotely. That is something they could be sent the contracts and so forth, review them, utilize DocuSign, things like that. And an add-on is, of course, when I say awards or subscription program, that's essentially just to lean back on the last slide, but of course a retainer. Retained services, of course, lawyers leverage that all the time. You're probably very familiar with having a retained lawyer when you're dealing with contracts, your businesses that are always potentially, running into lawsuits or things like that. They always have one on retainer. So those are your primary service is your one-offs and random. Your secondary service is something you could do anywhere and at all times based on, of course, we want to make sure that that secondary service is something that kind of leans on your primary. We're not going to diversify you in a way where you're just doing different businesses, but it's something that you can do and have as a secondary source of revenue. And your add-on is that continual or potential subscription kind of program. So think about your current services and how you can generate revenue in additional ways. So I use the word diversify there, but you don't want to, you don't want to have your eggs in one basket when it comes to your revenue streams. So focus when it comes to your services, but ways you provide them can be adjusted. You could always, provide your services in different ways. In our case, we may design websites, but we also help continually maintain them. We also consult, but we're still in our place of specificity, or we're still in our industry. Another example is kind of food and restaurant. So secondary service, delivery and catering, and add-ons would be online orders. I use this third example here as one that I actually ran into a person in my neighborhood as a plumber, and his secondary service is consultation. So he will consult via, whether it be online or whether it be in person at the time. And then his add-on, he can potentially do quarterly evaluations and maintenance programs and virtual evaluations where someone would, of course, say, hey, this is what I'm doing, or this is what's going on. How can you give me a quote for that? How can you consult on how to do that, et cetera? So those are just three different industries, or three different examples. Let's step right on through this. So systems is the fourth, of course. So this may be a great time to visit software or new service providers that will help your business work easier and more efficient in times like this, and just in general. You want to look at things that you're using or not using and kind of evaluate them and see if they're actually helping your business. So what can make things more efficient or automate sales, communication, and more? It's a software process that you're currently using now making the business easier currently, or is it making it harder? Is it making it where I do have to show up for things? I do have to be in person, and I cannot scale in times like these or outside of times like these. So it's time to really evaluate these systems. So leveraging technology. I have clearly a plethora of different technologies that can be leveraged for whatever industry that you're in to connect with your people. So we have Zoom, GoToMeeting like we're in right now, or GoToWebinar, Join Me. And then of course like Grubhub and Uber Eats if you're a restaurateur, leveraging all the technology to continually manage your books online, QuickBooks, Stripe. And then of course talking to your people, like I said, Trello, Slack, your current website, or being on a manageable, scalable platform like WordPress, etc. So these are all different things you could be leveraging right now. And a lot of these we actually use in our company. And DocuSign is something, you know, you could use. Well, I talked about that a little bit when I talked about a lawyer. So like I said, I like to kind of give examples. So an example of someone really leveraging their website and technology, we actually, BBIF is our client as well. And they placed, actually in advance, a year ago, they placed all their onboarding forms online. We created an intuitive form for their clients depending on input, and it eliminated forms and needing to be sent email, snail mail, etc. This was a year ago. This was just, they felt as if it was a good idea to take everything online to eliminate the forms. And now it's serving them very well in a time like this, where everyone can go online and fill out their form just like they would in person, or just like they would, put it in. So going even further now, they're looking to fully integrate that onboarding process for people seeking loans, systems that help improve processes and allow for access no matter where people are. And this was someone, them thinking in advance. And that's what we need to be doing right now, thinking about, hey, this is what's going on now, and this could be happening in the future. And this is uncertain as to how long. So we want to make sure we're thinking about all these processes now. The fifth, as we kind of go into the sixth soon, is branding and reevaluating your brand and its effectiveness. So when we talk about brand, of course, people think about logo, which is not equivalent. We're talking about how you reach out to people, how you look on all platforms, consistency of how you make your clients feel, how your physical location correlates to the online, and vice versa. We're not necessarily just talking about your logo or your brand stamp. At this time, you want to check out or update how you communicate to your customers and how you can communicate to your customers. If you've been only communicating in a way that is not efficient right now, let's probably add different ways you can communicate with your customers via email or however that may be. And where are you located amongst other brands that sell or provide your services? And how can you continually compare to those that are quote unquote the bigger fish? So how are they doing things right now? How are they continually communicating? How are they still branding in a way that generates sales and so forth? And how are you building brand trust? Are your customers thinking of you now? And how can you reconnect with them? Like we talked about earlier, reconnecting with strategic partners and larger clients and saying, hey, we're here now for you, and we can still be your service provider in any time through these times as well. So think about how you're branding. And I'm not I reiterate that I'm not talking about or not speaking directly on how your logo looks or things like that. How your actual brand is being put out there and what people think of when you're not in the room. That is your brand. So an example, just to dip on that very quickly. We work with the Florida Census, FL Counts here in Florida. So their branding, it can be internal and external. Think about it both ways. How are you connecting and communicating with your current individuals that work with you? How are you reaching out to clients, partners, subscribers, and reconnecting with them right now in their time of need as well as yours? And make sure that you're building trust during good times and bad. So right now, of course, the census is going on or has been going on. So continually strengthening efforts. And the census itself, actually, which is amazing in hindsight, it went fully online this year. So everything could be done right there online and so forth. So they're continually communicating and reaching out even in these circumstances. And lastly, which is of course the most important, very important, inclusive of how you generate your revenue, is very important, sales. So it's very important in this potential slower time to revisit your sales funnel and methods. So sales and business development are your lifeblood. You want to check out or update how you communicate with customers. Look at material your team may need once they ramp back up. So how, what material or what mechanisms you may need to connect with your potential clients. Do you have the right marketing creative to showcase what you sell and show what differentiates your business? And visit follow-up, primary, secondary, and retention plans for sales on your product and services. So how are you truly not only dripping to your clients or having the kind of drip campaigns, but how are you continually reaching back out to them and making sure that you have those sales funnels and communication? And is your website marketing generating leads now or then? I mean, was it generating leads in the beginning? And is it even generating leads now when it's potentially or could be potentially your only kind of form of marketing? So you want to look at those things when it comes to sales and when it comes to really leading people back to making purchases or buying into your services and products. You know. So just kind of to wrap things up, why we may not have thought of some of these things in the past, which is clearly retroactively, at times, some may have thought a lot of this stuff when it comes to mechanisms, when it comes to systems, or just general things that we talked about in the 6 points here, were not necessary. And we kind of at times become comfortable. And out of uncomfortability becomes change. So we definitely, at this time, want to be making sure that we're out of that comfort zone and making changes that will allow our businesses to flourish in the future. And we're growing even in this time that is potentially stagnant, depending on your industry. And that we have the mechanisms to grow even when things go awry. I mean, there are variables that are just unforeseen. I mean, this is unforeseen variables that happen here. So we want to make sure that we're pretty much ready for anything. And that's what these points are for. So there is a working just fine syndrome that kind of goes amongst our entrepreneurs. Even years in the past for me, there's, oh, this is working just fine. Everything we're doing is good. But at all times, whether it be quarterly or whether it be weekly, however you do it, and with your staff or your team or yourself, because you may be a solopreneur, you want to look and say, what? Okay, this is working just fine, but how can it be better? How can we work even better? How can things be flowing in any time, in any period? So, and even if you're not looking to scale or sell, you want to always be looking at your business saying, hey, how can we get this bigger? How can this, how can this be big, or how can this be sold in a way? Does this work without me? Does this work without me as a solopreneur? Does this work without me as the lead? Is this sellable or scalable? And always be thinking about it in that way and creating mechanisms that allow it to be that. All right, so there's just a little recap. We're looking at when it comes to the 6 points, want to definitely look at your most valuable asset right now. That's why that's number one. You want to look at your people, inclusive of yourself, and make sure that how they're doing, what this looks like for them, and making sure that they are feeling comfortable and doing well at this time, as well as how you can help them as a CEO or business owner. Secondly is your business strategy and specialties. We talked a little bit about that and how you're actually accomplishing what you want to do and your goals and what your specialties are. We talked about your revenue models and also talked about kind of profit first, as well as subscriptions and things like that. And then maybe you could add on to your current services and things. We talked about systems and automation. We actually kind of had a slide full of just different softwares or things that you could be leveraging right now and leveraging in the future that could be helpful for that. We talked about branding, what branding really is, and what we could be doing right now to really refine our brands, really think about how we're communicating and what we are showing our customers as far as brand. And then also, we talked a little bit about sales and business development and those funnels, as well as items that you may want to have coming out of this, or even now when it comes to marketability and able to still sell your product at any time. So I had a list of kind of some great sources. Of course, you guys are listening right now. The African American Chamber of Central Florida is an amazing source for these type of things, and to go through this process with you guys. They are doing a stellar job creating these webinars, creating opportunities for you guys to reconnect and know what's going on all over. BBIF is also a client of ours, and also the African American Chamber is a partner of theirs as well. So they are also an awesome strategic way to go and find out what's going on, find out ways you can get loans, find out ways that also lean on that goes toward the SBA, and the FSMSDC is a good source too for you all that maybe Florida MBAs and things, or MBEs, sorry, and things like that, or WBEs. And then, of course, which is a partner of all of them. They all are kind of one great source when it comes to Central Florida in general. But the Entrepreneurial Center is kind of a partner of all of these guys, and they're continually sending out information and letting you guys know and letting everybody know what they could be doing right now, ways that they could be leveraging webinars and information, and just keeping everybody in tune with what's going on. So those are just some great sources, and I'm sure the chamber will send out even more information about what you guys can be doing now. But other than that, hopefully everybody got an opportunity to maybe take something away from this that's helpful, and some of the things that could be helpful to your business right now, in the future, and things you may have not have thought about leading into this crisis. And hopefully everybody's doing well and just being safe and being healthy as well. That's very important. Just wanted to see if there were any questions. I know we have a kind of mechanism here within webinar to ask any questions or any things maybe related to your specific industry, or maybe related to just what you're going through right now, or just even thoughts about what we just talked about.
Reginald, hearing no questions. Do you have any? Hello, Reginald.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yes, I don't think we have any questions. But I just want to thank you for that presentation. I know there are a lot of takeaways that even I received for the chamber, as well as those that participated, the over 40 participants that we had. So thank you for sharing your expertise and your knowledge to help us get through this. And I think that's one of the highlights I take away from your presentation. We will get through this, so we just have to make sure we're prepared and how we were going to come out on the other side. Want to encourage all of you all to stay connected. There's Reginald's information right there. The webinar has been recorded, and that will be sent out as well to all of the participants. And you can also find it on our website, which is www.blackcommerce.org. And you can go on our website and check out our upcoming workshops as well. We do have one coming up in 2 days. On Thursday, it's a virtual workshop again in this same series as we engage, enlighten, and empower. And we have one with Jaslyn Ferguson, posting for profit in these challenging times. That's very important as we all work from home. We want to make sure now more than ever we keep a valid and accurate and I guess a high profile social media presence. So come and join us with Jaslyn on Thursday the 9th. Then next week on April 14th, we have another virtual workshop, how to keep your business relevant during COVID-19. Again, that's with Design Theory, and our friend John is going to be here with us next week for that. So we ask that you all go ahead and register for those workshops and keep checking back on our website for additional workshops, as well as make sure you sign up to receive our newsletter so you can stay in the know, and follow us on all of our social media channels. We want you to also save the date for our business conference, which will be August the 21st, 2020. This is the inaugural business conference for the African American Chamber of Commerce of Central Florida. And we're excited because now more than ever, our businesses need the knowledge, the resources, and the education to grow and continue to develop. And so we think that these workshops are just a lead way into the business conference, which again will be August 21st, 2020. Please mark your calendars and save the date. It will be an all-day business conference, and included within that conference will be our annual empowerment luncheon that we've always had every August. August is Black Business Month. We're looking forward to the business conference to engage, enlighten, and empower all of our businesses. So again, thank you, Reginald. Thank you for all of you for joining us today. Thank you to the chamber staff for working hard. We're keeping all of you in our thoughts and prayers, and we look forward to engaging with you. And again, thank you. Have a great day.